Well, happy Democracy Day, Nigerians, and it is good to commemorate today looking at June 12th and all that was brought by the mantra, the 1993 annulled presidential election of late M.K. Abiola, where it was perceived that he really won that election, and what followed the military interregnum, 25 years of non-interrupted democratic rule, and all of this we are really enlisted in the presidential speech we had today in commemorating a Democracy Day. And the president really kept his word when he said that he will not be making any broadcast on May 29, but rather reserving that for June 12. Today being Democracy Day, looking at our democratic history for 25 years, can we say that we've been able to achieve strong, or what are the indicative factors to show that we're really in the direction of getting it right, and what the struggles are about of late MKO Abiola, and of course those that struggled for democracy, including the president, who is seen as the first activist of June 12th to be a national leader, and of course the president. And we're looking at closing the gap on all of this as regards what we've been able to go through as a nation. And in spite of this, we'll also remember the words of the president, even when he quoted the former president Franklin Roosevelt, where he said that there are different ways, to harnessing a road or going through it, but only one road of standing still. And that was the statement credited, as he quoted from our president. But we're going to be looking at all of this and building resilience for transformation in Nigeria, commemorating Democracy Day. My name is Philip Omo Gupo, and we're going to be starting off immediately with this conversation, as I have at my extreme left a seasoned legal practitioner, a clergyman, and he is a public affairs analyst. And he is Greg Iyayi. Thanks for joining, Greg.
Good morning, Philip.
And happy Democracy Day.
Thank you. Happy Democracy Day to all our viewers.
And next to Greg is a seasoned lecturer at the University of Benin, a chemist, the HOD of Chemistry Department, and former chairman of ASU Uniben chapter, Professor Julius Iyasele. Thanks for coming, Professor Julius.
Thank you, Philip, for having me, and good morning, viewers.
And I will also be joined by Ahmed Mamodo from Texas, Houston. And good morning, Ahmed, and how are you doing today?
Good morning, Philip. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, viewers. Happy Democracy Day.
Yeah, it's good to know that you are keeping it alive, you're keeping the spirit alive, because as a Nigerian, basically it's expected that we all find a way to reinvigorate the strength that keeps Nigeria warm. All right, I will also be joined via Zoom by Chief Daniel Ahwemokan Matthews from the UK. Good morning, Matthews. Okay, we'll be establishing contact as soon as we are able to get signals from Chief Daniel Ahwemokan Matthews from the UK. A whole lot, I choose to start with you, Professor Julius, yesterday. A whole lot has been said in the direction of the spirit, the attributes, the all that came, the reflections with late MKO Abiola, what he stood for, and looking at the need to keep this hope alive, making sure that democracy works, the tenets of democracy, making sure that they are well rooted, and even in the words of the president, that we will not deter, we will continue in the struggle because of the political background we came from, in spite of the military interregnum, that we will not deter, we will continue. Do you see these thoughts as thoughts that are really needed at this time of our political history?
Yeah, Philip, let me, you notice that I was the only person who didn't say Happy Democracy Day here. Because I couldn't find any reason to out there, because democracy is supposed to be a government by the people for the people, and a government by voters. So, but what I think we have in Nigeria, or that Nigeria is being ruled by a confused system. We don't know where we are. Unfortunately for Abiola, you know, he himself, like me, are deceived by this country, because I can't say we have a democratic system.
When you say deceived by this country,
Yes, you know what I mean by that.
Or you mean by some? By some, because you say by this country, you are part of it.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That
you can't just cast that aspersion on everyone.
Unfortunately, just like myself, I don't know where I am. We are just groping in the dark and all that, because if you look at it, what can you make of democracy? This is a country where monarchy is involved. This is a country where oligarchy is involved. In fact, the current system being practiced now, where we are gravitating towards, is this oligarchy, a government by a few persons and all that. So is that democracy? If you look at the population of voters in Nigeria, and then at the end of the day, how many people cast vote to put people in place? In fact, those who even vote are not the ones that the voter, I mean, what I mean, that votes cast are not even, doesn't even matter and all that. And yet, at the end of the day, somebody is thrown up as the winner of an election. So we've not had popular elections, and so I can't say that Nigeria is practicing democracy. In this country, you find that somebody can announce a holiday and all that without recourse to the president and all that. And so what are we talking about? So where is the democracy from?
Okay, let's get your viewpoint, Greg Iyayi, because he just said, from what he said in summary, that there are no indicative steps at present by the country's government in keeping the values and struggles of June 12 alive. Do you share in this thought?
I share his views to some extent, but I'm a little bit optimistic that somehow, though the road has been very rough, very bumpy, and sometimes injurious, that we will eventually get there. Well, if you look at the evolution of democracy, democracy started with the Greeks, but the women were never allowed to vote. But it was democracy, according to them. Then, if you even look at the greatest democracy in the world, the United States of America, they got their independence in 1776. But women were never allowed to vote in the US, you can't believe, till 1926. And in 1926, it was only the state of Wyoming that allowed women to vote. And one of the things Awolowo kept campaigning with in the early days of his political career was universal adult suffrage. That is, everybody who is of adult age should be allowed to vote. So democracy has been evolving and has been developing, and it has actually had a bumpy road. You see, the case of Abiola was a watershed, and it really shows that Nigerians, they had democracy. Abiola was a Muslim, educated by missionaries, Baptist missionaries, and he said that over and over again. Baba Gana Kijingbe, his vice, was a Muslim, educated by missionaries from Borno State, and their favorite campaign song was a Christian chorus, Ushe Baba, Ushe Baba. And if you look at that election, if you remove the votes from the south, from the east, Abiola won. If you remove the votes from the west, Abiola won. If you remove the votes from the south, Abiola won. If you remove the votes from the north, Abiola won. So it was the first time somehow that Nigerians said, we want to come together, irrespective of tribe, irrespective of creed, irrespective of whatever. And unfortunately, I can understand Prof's pain, You see, unfortunately, that was not allowed to be. That's why Prof said Abiola was deceived, because the military encouraged people to come out. And if you look at that election, it took place in the heart of the rainy season and terrible fuel scarcity. But Nigerians braved the odds. They trekked. I trekked from Teddy Secular to Ogbeson to go and vote on that day, because there was this enthusiasm, there was this aspiration, there was this hope that we can get it right in that election.
Okay.
And to a large extent, we got it right.
Thank you for that articulation. Well, if we remember vividly what MKO Abiola stood for, and though late, but we still remember him on what he stood for. The presidential election that was annulled, that was immensely seen as him being the victor of that. And some have said, well, his slogan was hope and farewell to poverty. And he was really indicative and working towards making sure that he prioritized the interest and welfare of the people over the personal interest of the ruling class. Now, are these indications in the present administration to show that we are getting it right? I think you want to see your thoughts or hear your thoughts on this, Ahmed Mamadou.
Yes, thank you, Philip. So your question is, are we seeing the benefits? Are we seeing the movement from the elites to the people? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Yes, okay. So now we've transited from military government in 1999, which is barely 24 years ago. And at this point of our transition to democracy, the actual transition, if you will spare me going back a little bit in history, actually took place in 2015, when the party that took over from the military transited to a party outside of power, and then power was handed over from the people who gained it from the military back to people who were actually voted for into power. That happened in 2015. Now, the point that we are is the development of the tenets and the ethos of democracy. It's a long and torturous journey. It's a destination that we keep on trying to build on. I don't think that we can say at this point in time that we failed in our endeavor to entrench democracy, because it's an ongoing process. We've seen where different things have happened, but we keep on trying to put all of these things together to make it work for us. Our democracy is pretty much something that is imported wholeheartedly from outside, and we need to find our own route that makes it work best for us and our people.
Just gave a speech on Democracy Day, and he also encouraged Nigerians on the need to keep hope alive. And he made respect to a slogan made by, a quote by the former president of U.S., Franklin Roosevelt. And we still are yearning, Nigerians are still yearning, because if we take our minds back to the speech he made, the first Democracy Day speech he made when he just got to office, he made it clear that for the sacrifice and pains that Nigerians are going through over the policy statement he announced then, that his government is going to be repaying Nigerians in investment on transportation infrastructure, health sector, revamping things that will help Nigerians, ameliorate their plight. Now, some Nigerians are asking, 1 year now, is there any indicative steps taken by the administration to show that it's in the right direction? I want you to speak to this, Ahmed Mamadou.
We've seen the government try to redirect some of the proceeds of the subsidy removal into infrastructural development. It's going to be a long and torturous process, but we need to keep on pushing through, and we need to keep on encouraging. The government has said that some of the palliatives that they would offer would be mass transportation, would be loans, would be subsidies in agriculture, and infrastructural development going forward. So at this point in time, I think we've all come to the realization that one of the things that had to go was the subsidy, which it has been taken out. And so we must keep government on the toes to keep reminding them that these promises that are made, we need to keep seeing them push towards it. How is the government going to continue to bring the dividends of democracy to the people? Is by continuous engagement and us asking them constantly, what are you doing? How are you doing it? And how does this work for you? Now, democracy on its own is not isolated. It takes continuous interaction between the people and the governed, and continuous transparency, not just in action, but in words and in the things that they are doing, so that the people feel that they are being carried along in every step that is taken and all the decisions that are made on their behalf. Now, let us look more closely at some of the things that we expect the government to do moving forward, and let us continue to bring this to their attention. There's a lot of poverty in the land. There's a lot of job insecurity. There's a lot of physical insecurity. And these are the primary responsibilities of the government. I don't have such a bleak overview to say we failed in our democratic practice, because this is a short period of only 24 years. The actual transition only took place 2015, when the ruling party handed over to an opposition party. That was when the real transition to democracy took place. And when is 2015? Barely 10 years ago. So let's be a little bit more optimistic with some of our expectations and keep pushing through.
2015. Well, I think there will be reactions to that, and there has been this blame game between APC and PDP on the decadence that Nigeria is presently, going through. But well, let's keep hope alive, and we have been able to establish contact with Chief Daniel Akwemoka Matthews via Zoom from the UK. Good morning, Matthews.
Hello. Good morning. How are you? Good morning, everyone.
Great. Good to have you here. And today is Democracy Day in Nigeria. And as a Nigerian, there's this need to keep hope alive. The president has made his speech and is still saying that we should be part of that change to bring about a better Nigeria. Now, what are your thoughts over the steps of the president to, keep hope alive, looking at the need to make sure that the struggle for democracy is not in tragedy?
That's right. Hope without substance is really no hope. It's doom. I don't think that just giving a rhetoric of saying keeping hope alive is going to amount to anything. I heard what the gentleman said when he said it's only 2015, we have a transition. But we have people who are like 70, 80 years old. Some of these people traveled the world, studied even in one of the best schools across the world. So, yeah, the democratic system may have been young, but the maturity of many of those people and the exposure of many of those people are inconsequential to the development of this great country, because we can also wind back for those who fought for independence. Those who fought for independence never had what democracy was. They studied, they see the difference, and they apply wisdom, knowledge, and critical mind and say, no, we want to be independent. So for me, I think what's lacking in Nigerian politics or Nigerian development in terms of the democratic system we've engaged ourselves in is people with pure mind and critical mind, honest spirit and critical mind, people like us who travel across the world. And notwithstanding, the majority of these parliamentarian people have also lived and traveled across the world, and they see how things are done outside the confine of Nigeria. So what does it take? A man with wisdom apply knowledge. Many of these so-called parliamentarians we have lack the critical mind to apply knowledge, but driven by greed. We need to be honest. Our democratic process, there's nothing wrong with our democratic process. It's the same democracy they have in other countries, and it functions. India just finished their election. I think the election took over a week or plus to have a democratic election that took over a week plus, and still they deliver. So our democratic process is not the problem, it's the people. The people who have gotten into a political position, political office, are the inadequate, selfish, and self centered people who have not delivered on the promise of democracy. The government of the people. That's what democracy entails, really is about, regardless of the kind of system you practice, the government of the people. Can the democratic elite of Nigeria today claim they are government of the people? 13 billion plus given to redecorate the vice president residence. Also, trillions given to redecorate the office of the first lady. Over 6 billion given to go on a holy pilgrimage given to another country. That's a bonus for another country for citizens to go for an holy pilgrimage. They spend the money, but spending money on new luxurious Jeep that's worth about $150,000. Spend money on Senate or car park. We have poor schools, poor education, we have poor healthcare, poor roads, insecurity. So they have enough money to pilgrimage. They have enough money
Thank
to
you,
revamp.
Chief Daniel. Thank you, Chief Daniel. I think that was quite a brilliant articulation, but you mentioned of the fact that the leaders are not doing their best, they are not doing well, but rather they are like a clog in the wheel of progress. But again, there is this energy that is going on over democracy, keeping it alive in Nigeria. That it shouldn't be left in the hands of the leaders alone, but that the followers, Nigerians, everyone's hand should be on deck. We've had situations where, due to the economic hardship, a lot of Nigerians have gone to seeking greener pastures, outside the shores of the land over the Jakpa syndrome. Now, don't you think it also falls on, such persons to come together and make sure that we struggle to make sure democracy in Nigeria, survives?
It's people like you that can change this. It's not a politician. Let me be brutally honest. Nigerian electorate, I mean the voters, are the worst kind of people on planet Earth in terms of democratic process. They don't vote for their conscience. They don't vote for their morality. They also don't vote for their way of life. They vote. I've seen people giving 1,000, 2,000 naira to go and vote against their interest for somebody who have not articulated any plan. So for democracy to strive, for democracy to stand, we need people like you. We need people like you who can speak the truth, but speak it more frequently, more often, most especially educating the voters. Without people like you, the journalists, the media people, coming out being critical, being honest, then we have no democracy. Democracy does not survive without the media. Because democracy, with the active participation of the media, stand a chance to scrutinize the politician, point out their weaknesses, eh, elevate the discussion to a much more ethical perspective, and challenge the population to be critical. The Nigerian average average engaged citizen in the politics are corrupt-minded people. An average Nigerian. Look at what's going on in Edo State. Majority of the so-called voters that say they are hungry is who will give them money they will vote for, not who will deliver on the promise of Edo State. We're going to have an election soon in Edo State, the governorship election. Nobody can tell you what any of these critical contestants are running on in a democratic society. No one can tell you what ASU is running on, what Monday is running on, what any of the candidates are even running on. What kind of democracy do we practice? And we have the media not holding these people to accountability and calling them out. What exactly is your plan on this? What's your plan on that? What's your plan on that? They may have a plan, but it's not been articulated. But we know for a fact millions are being given to people to engineer this election with false narrative and false promises. That's not democracy. Even worse than the oligarchy kind of governance. Even the military government will be better in this case. We are not practicing proper democracy when we don't have the media scrutinizing the politician, when we don't have the media educating the population, and we don't have the media exposing the ills of democratic process. of failure of government. I, we have a government that we have just the instance for let's just look for the basic thing. Basic thing. We cannot produce electricity in a country that are oil producing nation. You spend
Thank you,
trillions
Chief Daniel.
on
You've said a lot. You said a lot, but we still need to keep hope alive. Basically, looking at democracy and what it stands for, the attributes. No matter the worst administration ever, is still better than military junta. Well, let's
my dear brother.
come
I'm
back
not
to
I,
you later on.
just
But
one
let's
let
get
me
the
add one
strength of
thing.
what you said, because you majorly did really show happiness over the present state of things in our democratic leadership. And just like Chief Daniel also said, there's need for us to have a repositioning, in our leadership style, and of course, even the followership. A situation where there's always a time to make decisions by the electorate, and their feelings are swayed by one inducement or the other. It seems that a people seem not to be ready for such a change. So how do we, navigate through? Because he made mention of the media as one of the social changes that can bring about the social change. But what do you say as other ways that can also help in ameliorating the plight of making sure that democracy, survives in Nigeria?
Well, I'm just hoping. Or first of all, let me lay background that I'm not a prophet of doom. My hope is that the democratic process be really practiced in Nigeria. Is my hope. And to get that, first of all, is that you start from, reconscientizing the people, which is what Akwamaha is talking about.
Yeah.
That is really letting the people understand the import of what good governance is. That's one. Two, you go back to political parties. There's no ideological stance of any of our political parties. Final, can you now say this is what the ideology of APC in Nigeria is? This is the ideology of PDP. What of even the Labour Party, where we saw a few who were elected yesterday went to the National Assembly and they also collected the 160 million money for SUVs. Do you understand? So the political parties, you need to, maybe the style that what they call this military junta now, the man with a little to the left, a little to Baba IBB.
Okay.
What he did, try and write out, if you belong to these ideas, stay this way. That is, bring out manifesto that will define a political party. See, for those who think that this is it, because it's so easy. Nigerians are able too easy to queue behind Arsenal or Manchester United or Chelsea Football Club. You find that, each time you try to change because that one particular club is not doing well, you find yourself remaining where you are because it is a kind of ideology. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And so let's government try now put in place, so those with these ideologies, you stay under APC. And then forbid the crisscrossing that we are facing now. Tell me who is in APC now who was not in PDP before. And so how is it easy for people to easily change their consciences and all that?
Just like Kamel Mamadou said that the
yes,
transition started in 2015. What's your thought in that?
But if you look at that, those who what was transition? It's only transition in name. A change from PDP to APC is in name. Are the people who operated PDP before not the ones who changed into APC?
But comparatively, looking at the dividends of democracy, can you throw light on what we've had?
Is there any dividend?
Even before the APC came on board,
any dividend?
comparatively.
Is there any dividend? That's why I'm coming to. Because if you look at it, have we made any gains? The election that brought was perceived to be won by MKO, was it not by any means or by every standard better than the elections we are now facing? The number of persons who took part or participated in that election, the population, are they not more than what we are now getting? Everything that we are getting now is all fictitious figures and all that. Fictitious people eventually win, and then fictitious number of voters, and everything is mixed me, all muddled up.
By your opinion?
Yes, but let me keep my opinion to myself. But that is what I'm saying here, because people will come and say this is the number, but at the end of the day, it's a different thing. I conducted the election in this country at a time. The issue is that what is on paper, fantastic. That when after accreditation you return back, you vote, you record the number of accredited voters. If nobody returns back, that will show in the ballot paper, and then you count the number of ballot, and then the collation officers will collate at that ward. After collation, or even at the unit, you have at the ward, and then at every point you get the security men and all the parties represented there to sign, and you paste on the wall, and you continue. And so anybody can go to any ward anytime to find out how many persons actually took part in this election or participated in this election. Do you understand? And so where are we now?
Okay. Let's also get your perspective, Greg, because I remember Bodo threw in something, that is really generating reactions. When he said 2015 was at the point when we had the retransition. That came with President Muhammadu Buhari, and the challenges that also came in that administration. A whole lot has been said, brought us to where we are today.
Yes, I think one of the gains we should have actually concretized in all this our journey was the issue of the sanctity of our electoral process, the integrity of our electoral process. Election integrity is a very big problem and a very big issue, not only in Nigeria, in Africa. Because if you don't have election integrity, there's nothing like democracy. You are just playing around. So we ought to have improved on that, but unfortunately, just like one of our speakers said, and what Prof has also said, it's not what is on paper. What is on paper is beautiful, fine, but the operators, the actors, by the time even you who supervise an election, you hear a different result being announced, you are crestfallen. It means that those people, they are not really ready for democracy. So the people have been resilient. I must commend Nigerians. Nigerians have been resilient against all odds. In Abiola's time, people came out and they voted. They were resilient. They didn't lose hope. Then again, when the new democratic era came, starting from Obasanjo, Nigerians came out. During Jonathan's time, Jonathan was the first time he contested. It was like hurricane, north, east, west, south. It took the nation by storm. And then when he also conducted election that brought in Buhari, it was seen to have been very transparent. And he set his standard. We thought that from there we had gotten it right, and we could move on and even improve. But unfortunately, we were put on the reverse. And just like Prof has said,
are you saying that at the point of that transition, administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, the dividends of democracy were not
They were
given?
lost. They were completely lost. Whatever gain we made, they were lost. Because if you look at the before then, election was conducted in Ondo. Labour Party won. They gave it to Labour Party. In Anambra, ABGA won. They gave it to ABGA. In Edo, APC won. They gave it to APC. In Ekiti, PDP won. They gave it to PDP. So people had hope that their votes could count. And that is what democracy is all about. What's the use of my going to line up, then at the end of the day, you have already written the result. You wasted my time. You wasted the time of those people that even conducted the election.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let's get your reactions, Amen Mamadou, because you said something about the transition of 2015, you know, as the real one, and Nigerians, or most Nigerians, are saying that there were no dividends of democracy even in the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. So what could be the reason for you to say this, and what do you see as the accolades on the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari that made you said that? Ahmed.
Of my co-panelists, but realistically speaking, the journey to our current democratic position has been long and torturous. Now, if these gentlemen and the audience will cast their minds back to even just the figures that were bandied around, when President Obasanjo won his election, he was said to have won in excess of 80 million people. That figure started dropping. Since then, we have attained attained that figure again. When the President Yar'Adua was sworn in, he was said to have won in the excess of 50 million people. By the time it came to Buhari's election, only Buhari and Jonathan shared the 50 million that Yar'Adua had been attributed previously. Onward to the current election, where the numbers have been dropping consistently. Now, there are two ways you can look at this. It's either, like the prof pointed out, we need to improve on election integrity. But in hand with that is we need to have a better understanding that when we go into elections, somebody is going to emerge as a winner, and the losers need to come back and strengthen the process. The idea that somehow the people's voice has not been spoken has been debunked by not just the United Nations, the foreign observers that came to monitor the elections, but even by our local election bodies. Now, the integrity of our election has been consistently been improved on with time. Now we have biometric capture, we have physical capture, and we need the physical presence of somebody to be able to vote and be counted. So I do agree that there's a lot of change that needs to be made. I do agree that we are not exactly where we need to be, but it is completely false to say we haven't made any progress since 1999. No, it is not true. The will of the people has continued to be spoken.
That's 2015. Reactions are still coming from even the social media platforms. Now, can you point to anything that you could see as a dividend of democracy at the time of 2015 till now?
Okay, one of the dividends of democracy, if you want us to go into specifics, is just let's look at the social media space. Let's look at the interaction between even the members of the military and civilians. Recently, soldiers have been killed randomly all over the country. What has been the reaction of the military? They have subjugated themselves to the authority of civilians and said, look, this has happened. Let us go and investigate. Let's find out what is going on. Look at some infrastructural development. Look at the ports. Look at the railways. Let me tell you something that, I'm sure my co-panelist in the UK will tell you. Nigeria has probably the best banking system currently that I know of in all of the countries I've visited. And that is one of the dividends of democracy. Nigeria has a system where the press is openly speaking. Whether they tell the truth or not is a whole different issue. But nobody is harassing them. Nobody is hounding them. In the US currently, we have a situation where somebody who is currently under censure by the legislature, by the judiciary, is running for the presidency. And we're talking of a democracy that is over 200 years old. It has never happened before. But Nigeria, we are progressing gradually. We are only 24 years into this journey. To write all of this off is to belabor the fact that none of our heroes in the past have done anything, and I will not accept that.
Okay, let's get your reactions, Chief Daniel Akwemoka Matthews. We've seen where persons or citizens are saying that under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, there should be need to see changes like he made in the inaugural speech where he said that there will be changes in terms of transportation infrastructure development, in terms of the health sector, and other sectors to ameliorate the plight of Nigerians. Now, can you add your voice to what Ahmed Mamadou said as benefits that we can see from the
I want
transition
to
2015 to date?
I want to agree with him to an extent. Yes, it's true. Our democratic process have actually improved. And I'll be the first person to say, on paper, the 2021-22 law, the electoral law signed, I think 2022 law signed into existence by Buhari government about the voters registration process, the voting system. Apart from it failed in 2023 in some spectacular way, it's one of the best in the world with the BVN voting. It's one of the best in the world. That's a providence of the democratic development process. Now we're talking of devolution of power from local government to from states to local government. That's one of the benefactor of development of democratic process. However, in terms of successful developing or contribution to the society in relation to the current crop of democratic leader, we have to be critical about that. Yes, our democracy is improving, and yes, we're babying it. However, I'm not advocating for, I'm a pure Democrat. I believe in democratic process. I'm not advocating for any military intervention. However, compare what Babangida did in 8 years and what he achieved in 8 years in Nigeria. A new federal capital transformed Lagos State. Most of the infrastructure in Lagos State was done during Babangida. Little bit has been added into it. But through the whole 25 years of democratic process we had, what is the contribution? So we cannot blame the process. We have to blame the people. Two set of people we need to blame: the elected officials and the voting officials. And we need to be honest and start educating ourselves about it. The, on paper, we have a blueprint, a pure blueprint of democratic system. It's not perfect, but it's still better than anything else. We are developing, but the pace at which we are developing or the direction of our development needs to be called to question. Yeah, it's no point having a system that's heading the wrong way or being led the wrong way by some fallacious people. But the democracy is one of the best. In Nigeria, at least we have freedom. People still able to criticize the government openly. People like myself from everywhere, and nobody being jailed or being dragged into somewhere else and never been heard of. Look at Russia, for instance. As wonderful as I love Putin to be, but you can criticize him. Look at other countries as well across the world. Even look at UK for instance. Look at Assange. Assange is in jail because he exposed allegedly exposed some information about journalistic information about the war. He's in jail trying to be extradited to America and still going on. That doesn't happen in Nigeria. We have our journalists. They speak freely. They open their mouth, support or criticize any government, any
Okay.
official. That is democracy and it's working. But
Okay,
it's what
thank you,
content.
thank you. I have to quickly cut in there because we are pressed for time. But I want your reaction still on Chief Daniel Akwemoka before we round off. I want your reactions on what the president said in the presidential speech. He gave his administration some accolades that under his his leadership, he has enjoyed some tranquility with labor unions in their negotiations without them having litigations or running to the industrial court. Don't you see that as another benefit of democracy?
It's a basic thing that's supposed to be done. That's not something of an accolade to be proudly displayed. It's a basic thing. All over the world, government negotiates with labor unions. So what is there? The standard of living is still very poor. The quality of life is unattainable. The projection of an average Nigerian is 45 years old. Although it's only been over a year in office, but the trajectory of where we're going is not clear, not certain. So it's basic. That's not an accolade to be shining example of. The cost of living is very high. The bag of gari, the bag of rice today is off the roof. The oil, the price of gas is off the roof. So what is the accolade? What is the direction we're going? The accolade, you see, we can see a trajectory pathway that we're heading somewhere positively good. Not when everything is going off the roof. No, absolutely not. It's not an accolade to be proud of. That is his job. He ran to be the president of the country, and you need to produce.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. That's
Thank
not
you
an
very much.
accolade. I
Let's get
apologize.
your reaction over that.
My dear brother, the truth about it is that is in the education sector. Do you know now the universities cannot light up their campuses? And then where can that happen else in the world where you can no more do research? So why do you now have the university? How are we saying that democracy will education? Is it the sector? My brother Akomahan had just said now 45 years this thing, life expectancy and all that. Where is, can you imagine that that is when you remember what it was in the past? Is it the roads? You have no roads. Can you pass anywhere? We are talking about all those infrastructural development and all that. The president had talked about, we talked about accolades now, that the labor unions and all that. People are just watching. Is it that the government that have negotiated, you have negotiated with labor unions and you are not implementing what you negotiated with them, and you are priding yourself over that? That is what do you think? What is the gain?
Okay.
Everybody is warming up for fight. That is the honest truth and all that. So is it? Excuse me. You know, this is a country of inequality. I said it about a few days ago. People just wake up from one side of their bed and do anything they like and all that. You have people at the pinnacle of their profession. You are treating them as slaves, whereas maybe those who will help you to positions, to power, okay, and all that, you are giving them over 60 million, I mean 6 million naira a month, and then the others are any 300,000. Can you come look at it now?
Okay, your final words in 10 seconds.
A country of inequality. So there is no progress. Well, otherwise, there's no progressive advantage, nothing. We are retrogressing.
Well, we don't hope that we are doing that. But let's get to your final words on this as you also react to what has been concerning the accolades the president gave to his administration as regards the tranquility of negotiations with the
Nigerians are the ones that should give him accolades, not himself. And let the average life of the Nigerians speak for itself. Like what Ronald Reagan said, he said the best way to measure the performance of any leader is to ask them, how was your life before now? And what is your life like now?
Okay.
We cannot answer that in Nigeria. We know what the answer is. It doesn't favor the president.
Okay, let's get your final words, Ahmed Mamodo from Texas, Houston. Looking at the accolades issue as regards President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. Ahmed Mamodo, please, are you there? Okay, while we await contact to be established with Ahmed Mamodo, let's get your final words, Ahmed Mamodo.
I said I do agree with my co-panelists that it's the people that should be giving the accolades, not the president himself. But having said that, this is the price for democracy is eternal vigilance. We must keep putting our representatives to test and keep reminding them of the promises they made before they come to power, and keep being vigilant and keep reminding that this is a journey. It's not. It's a progress. It's a work in progress, and we need to be patient as it plays itself out.
Thank you. Your final words, Chef Daniel Akwemoka Matthews.
Beg every July. All July, beg me not hear me. Election they happen. This is what democracy is supposed to be about. So I want to beg every one of you. I'm not asking you to support one A or B, because this is a neutral ground and I'm not publicizing for anybody. Me, I know who I go support. But I want to beg on her. Please, for the love of Edo State that you and I love, vote right. Vote your conscience. Number one, go register to vote if you are not done so yet, if they're still going on. Then vote. Not vote for the person who go give you bag of rice today, tomorrow you not go see him. Or we go give you mortar where then they take gram pepper. No, you not go get money to gram pepper. No go vote for somebody who go promise you bridge to nowhere, or he go build one mansion for you for the on top water. I beg, vote for the future of your children and generation to come. I beg on her, vote. Please go vote. Don't say your vote not they count. Don't worry, it will count. Even though when they try to rig it, your good heart will pass that. So I want to beg the media, where they those the social media, the bloggers, and my dear brother, I beg, may not do a good job this time criticizing, not criticizing, scrutinizing each of these candidates. Not the one will come China, will pay for China or anything, will pay for airtime. But let's critically scrutinize them. And the
All
media
right.
is the one that will educate us. God
Thank you.
bless.
Thank you, Chief Daniel Akwemuka Matthews. It's been awesome. Thank you for your articulation. And Akwemuka Matthews from the UK, via Zoom, ventilated his opinion. And of course, thank you, Ahmed Momodu, for also ventilating your opinion from Texas, Houston. And big thanks to you, Professor Julius Iyasele, former ASU Chairman, Uniben Chapter, for also being around presently, physically, to ventilate your opinion. Big thanks to you, Greg Iyayi, a legal practitioner, and of course, a clergyman, for your contributions. Well,